Hi everyone, I am here today to do an audiobook tour for you. So I often talk about my audiobooks, but you never really get to see what my collection is. And so I thought this would be a great way to show you. This will just be a brief tour. I'm not going to talk too much about each book, but I've listened to a lot of them and I thought it'd be quite nice to just show you what I own. So down here, the very first audiobook I ever bought on Audible was The End of an Earring by Pam St. Clement. And as you can see just there, I have got the stars of each area. So overall I thought it was, a 4-star, but the performance was 5 stars because it was actually read by the author herself, and the story was also 4 stars. So it's nice that I can look on here and actually see what I have actually got even from back then. And then the next book is The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole by Sue Townsend, and that one was a really enjoyable one. It took me back to my childhood. Then we have a young adult contemporary, The Lake, which is the first book in the Lake trilogy by Annalisa Grant. And this one was quite a dodgy one actually, but for some reason it ended in such a way where it's made me interested. So I've actually got the second book on my Kindle, I think, so I will be reading that at some point in the future. Now, having an Audible subscription allows me to get quite a lot of free books. They're often quite dodgy ones, but the next few ones on the screen here were all free ones. So we've got the Relic Guild, which was a free book. Then there's The Vanishing Game, which I think that one was free. That one might not have been. That one might have been like something stupid like £1, but I think it was free. And then we've got The Undead, which is just a deleted scene. Love Story from Dead But Not Forgotten. Frankenstein. The Jewel of Dantenos. So Long Lollipops. The Hospital. Gabriel 0 Point. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. You do if you are patient enough. Obviously I've built these up over time, but you can eventually build up quite a nice collection of the classics, so you never have to really bother worrying about buying them if you are willing to be patient. So The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Treasure Island. Christmas Present. Roman Holiday. The First. And then we're back on to some ones that I have used my sort of Audible tokens for. So Soundtrack to My Life by Dermot O'Leary. He is a well-known presenter in the UK. And again, it was one that was read out by him, and that just makes the performance always so much better. So as you can see, I gave the performance side of that 5 stars. Next we have The King's Speech. And I've seen the film of this, and so I thought it'd be a nice little thing to be able to actually listen to the audiobook and sort of compare it. And it was quite a while ago that I listened to this one now. I got it in 2015, so I think I actually listened to it not long after. And unlike other places like my NetGalley queue or my Kindle queue or my physical book queue, my audiobook queue isn't that big in comparison. So if I want to get to a book quite quickly, I tend to grab it on audio because then I can actually know that I'm going to listen to it sometime soon. And also, I'm not really all that picky about my genre, except for fantasy. I'm quite picky over which fantasy books I grab, but you can see there's a lot of crime books on here coming up in the next few. So we've got The Dying Hours, Saints of the Shadow Bible. Then we've got a Charlene Harris book, which I really didn't like and now has me nervous for the Sucky Stackhouse books because I didn't like Midnight Crossroad, which granted is a totally different book, but at the end of the day it's still the same author, and it was the writing I didn't like much, so I'll have to see how that goes. Then we have Northanger Abbey, of course, by Jane Austen, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer, The Railway Children, Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, 5 Children and It, Grimm's Fairy Stories, English Fairy Tales, Animal Farm by George Orwell. I don't know why, by the way, some of them I haven't actually bothered putting the ratings on Audible. I'm not really sure. I usually just do it automatically when I finish a book, but for some they're not on here, so don't really know what was going on with that. Then we have Theodore Boone by John Grisham, and then the Enchanted Wood trilogy, all of which just get lots and lots of 5 stars all the way down. And they're all read by They are all read by Kate Winslet, and so they're a nice sort of set to have. Then we have The Girl in 6E by A.R. Torre, Something Wicked, Slow Regard of Silent Things by Patrick Rothfuss. I actually picked that up sort of future guessing what I would read, and I've still not read the rest of the books in this series. I can't remember what the series is called, but I do own them on Kindle, so once I've read them I will listen to this. It might be a while away yet. Then we have the first book in the Dexter series, and then The Long Earth by Terry Pratchett and Stephen Baxter, which I actually really didn't like. And this is one of the books I'm going to use as an example of me disliking fantasy with audiobooks. I'm not sure whether it's the story I didn't like or whether I just struggled trying to get my head to envision the sort of the fantasy world with listening. So I'm going to reread this at some point on my Kindle just to see if that makes a difference before I worry about continuing on with the series. But then on the other hand of things, I mean, Ready Player One, all the stars. I loved that audiobook. Can't recommend it enough. Same with The Kiss of Deception. I gave that one 4 stars straight the way down. Really enjoyed that one. I don't really know why my head can only manage some fantasy via audiobook. I don't know. Then we have The Jungle Book. We Should Hang Out Sometime, which was a really fun read. As you can see, that one got 4 stars right the way down as well. And then one of my favourite audiobooks of all time, How to Be a Woman by Caitlin Moran. That one was a fantastic listen. It surprised me because I was expecting to, at best think it was okay, and it blew me away. I thought it was fantastic. And so, yeah, if you're looking for, sort of my top audiobook recommendation, this is the one. You need to check this out. Then we have Lock and Key by Joe Hill. And I've heard that this one doesn't make much sense unless you actually read, do some reading of the series in physical form beforehand. So I don't know whether to give this a go or not until I do some reading. I'm not sure yet. We'll see. Then we have Orange is the New Black. And, I thought that one was sort of okay. It's got straight 3s all the way down. Elizabeth is Missing. That was a really good one. The Lumineers, I didn't get on with that one at all. I don't know whether my brain just could not handle an almost 30-hour audiobook or whether I was going to struggle with that book, whatever, because it's just so dense, it's so long, it's so just detailed. I don't know whether I maybe wasn't smart enough for that book. Next we have Jurassic Park, which I thought was okay. The film's better, in my opinion. The Knife of Never Letting Go, absolutely adored this one. It was a fantastic read. If you've never picked it up, I can highly recommend the audiobook version. It was fantastic. 5 on Treasure Island, part of the Famous 5 series, the very first one. And this took me back to my childhood. The narrator was fantastic. 5 stars for all of it. The Maze Runner. I've still never read the rest of the books. And I've seen the film. And so I thought I'd give the audiobook a go, and I quite enjoyed it actually. 4 stars right the way through. Stig of the Dump. The Complete Just So Stories. The Wind in the Willows. Northern Lights, the first book in his Dark Materials. It does say trilogy, but technically speaking, another book is now being added on in some way, shape or form. Later this year, so trilogy is, I suppose it's the original trilogy, and I gave that 4 stars right the way down. I thought that one again had a fantastic narrator. I can highly recommend that one. I don't, however, highly recommend the one above, Swallows and Amazons. 1 star right the way down. This one was free, but just don't put yourself through it. If it's one that you've also picked up free and you just haven't listened to it yet, just don't. Don't put yourself through that. It's truly awful. Above that we have Black Beauty. Then we have a free gift one here, which is The Tales of Max Carados. Then we have the 4th book in the Millennium series, The Girl in the Spider's Web. And I didn't get on with this one very well either. I know it doesn't say anything on there because, again, I didn't rate it for some reason. But I do remember that I gave it like 2 stars, I think, maybe 3, probably 2 overall, and that makes me really sad because I enjoyed the first 3 books a lot. Obviously this was a different author, and I don't know whether it was because it was a different author or whether it was just because I listened to it on audiobook, and so I'm going to have to try and reread this one on my Kindle as well, just to check to see, you know, where the issue truly lied with this one, because, oh wait, that doesn't make sense. That's definitely not what I rated it. Oh, that's its average. That makes more sense. But yeah, I just wasn't thrilled by it, to be honest. Then we have probably my favourite audiobook from... Actually, no, this year's tough. I don't know whether you've noticed from my wrap-ups, but I'm having a fantastic audiobook year. And I wanted to say that this is my favourite book from this year, but I'm actually not sure that it is. I've got about 5 of them, I think. But this one was one of the most amazing audiobooks until I stumbled on the others. And this is 3 Wishes by Liane Moriarty. I love this author, I can't get enough of her. And the narrator, Caroline Lee, narrates a lot, if not all, of her audiobooks. And this is the only one I've currently listened to, but her voice suited the part perfectly. And so I am looking forward to listening to her narrate some of the others now too. I'm a massive Ollie Murs fan, so it was only a matter of time before I picked up an Ollie Murs audiobook, which is narrated by himself, so that was a wonderful time for me. I Am Legend, that one was quite a nice surprise. I've seen the film quite a few years ago, but I wasn't really expecting much from the audiobook, and actually I thought it was a pretty decent listen. Then we have The Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks, and I'm wary of picking this one up. I think I'd like it in physical form. My problem is I've developed a bit of a fear almost of listening to fantasy on audiobook now, just because it's such a dodgy area for me. So this is a 27-hour nearly audiobook. If I don't like it, it's going to be a painful experience. Or if I feel a bit lost, it's going to be a painful experience. So I'm kind of been putting off listening to this one. So as you can see, I usually listen to a lot of my audiobooks in order. There's ticks by lots of them. And that's just because I'm indecisive, so I just work through them in the order I got them. So when I finished I Am Legend, I was meant to read The Sword of Shannara. I skipped it and jumped to Eleanor and Park instead because, like I said, I was nervous. But that was a good choice of me. It was quite a short one at 9 hours. I gave it 4 stars right the way through, and I really enjoyed it. It's another one that suits audiobook really well. And that was actually the first time I'd ever read a Rainbow Rowell book as well, so I was quite excited to skip on to that one anyway for that reason too. Above that we have the book I'm currently listening to, which is More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera. I've nearly finished it. I might end up finishing it today, and I'm really enjoying it a lot more than what I ever expected to. I more picked this one up because of the hype that originally surrounded it, and just put off actually getting it and listening to it until now because I wanted to sort of not be affected by the hype, but at the same time I was influenced by the hype to actually pick it up. So speaking of hype, or maybe not actually, more like hate, and we have Gil Online by Zoe Sugg, aka Zoella. This one's actually narrated by Hannah Toynton, which if you have watched Mr. Selfridge, she plays Violette in that. And so I'd been watching that a lot recently, and when I realised that she was the narrator for this, I was like, oh, I bet she'll be really nice to listen to voice-wise. So I thought I'm going to skip to this audiobook and listen to this, and yeah, loved it. Then above that we have Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, and this is a book that a lot of people really love, and I listened to the audiobook and wasn't that impressed. I think I gave it 3 stars in the end overall. And I don't know whether it's another case of fantasy. Was the audiobook not for me? Should I have read the physical copy? Or whether it's more a case of, actually the story just isn't for me. So again, like a lot of the other fantasy books on here, I'm going to have to go and read the physical copy and see how I get on with that before I can commit to continuing on with the series or not. Above that we have a free, rather big book that I am in no rush to listen to at nearly 24 hours, and that is Moby Dick. I'm not in any rush to read that at all, but it was one of the free ones, so I grabbed it thinking I'll listen to it at some point. Then we have a Brandon Sanderson book, and that is The Rhythmatist, and I'm kind of nervously putting this one off again because fantasy, yeah. Same with the above, An Ember in the Ashes. I'm a bit nervous about this one because fantasy, me on audiobooks and fantasy. It's kind of led to me just skipping all my fantasy books and just listening to everything else instead. Then we have The Boy Who Could Do What He Liked. This one was free on World Book Day. And actually, this one was a pleasant surprise. 4 stars right the way down. Really enjoyed it. Then we have Twelfth Night by Shakespeare. And I was actually... Again, this one was another one that I picked up for free, but I'm actually really curious to read this one sometime and just see how it compares, because obviously when you're reading a play to yourself, it just doesn't really properly work. So surely this will actually be a fantastic way to sort of really take in plays. I'm hoping so. And if that's the case, there'll be a whole video on audiobooks and plays. Then we have The Lake House by Kate Morton. The Secret Garden, which was one of my favourites as a child, so I can't wait to listen to that sometime. Then a book that I've been hearing a lot of good things about, but again I've been sort of putting it off a bit, and that is The Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet. Then we have Nosferatu by Joe Hill, and I can't remember why I picked this one up. Obviously it's my sort of book. I think I must have seen someone's review and been blown away. But it's a very big chunky audiobook at nearly 20 hours, so I'm not in any rush to get to that one either. And we have the second and the third book in the Dexter series. And in the case of these, I've read the second one as a physical copy. I've read the first and the second as physical copies. And then we also have the third, which I might have read as a physical copy. But then after that, I've definitely not read any more physical copies. So I'm slowly working my way through collecting them in audiobook because I enjoyed the first one. So I can listen to them all in a row. And then I'll probably want to just become some sort of serial killer. But I really missed the TV show of Dexter, so it'll be nice to just sit and listen to the audiobooks of that sometime in a row. Then up here we have, I knew I owned them, but I thought I owned them I think I owned them in a physical copy as well. And that is The Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear from the Kingkiller Chronicles. That is what the series is called. As you can see, that they are some really dauntingly sized books. I'm not in any rush to get to those. Then we have The Woman in Black by Susan Hill, and I've seen the film of that, and I saw the audiobook dirt cheap. I think it was dirt cheap, not free. I think it was just really cheap. I was like, yeah, okay, we'll give that one a go. Then we have Tess of the D'Urbervilles, American Psycho. I've seen that film and absolutely loved it, and so I thought I'd give the audiobook a go, and that was a 17-hour one though, so... The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. That one's just under 5 hours, and I've seen the film, which isn't much shorter than that, to be honest. We have typical long Leonardo DiCaprio style film on the go, but I really enjoyed the film, and so I would love to check out the audiobook sometime and see how it compares. Then we have another another Leanne Moriarty book, The Hypnotist's Love Story, and again there we have the same narrator, Caroline Lee. Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, Jamaica Inn by Daphne du Maurier, Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte, It by Stephen King. I know for a fact that I bought this one on some sort of deal. It was $2.99, and $2.99 for a 45-hour audiobook probably isn't too bad, to be honest. But I'm not in any rush to get to this because 45 hours via audiobook, it's going to take me weeks, possibly months. Then we have Do Not Disturb, which is the second book in the, what's this series called? But it's the sequel to The Girl in 6E, which was further down in the list that I really enjoyed. Then we have a nice cute dog cover audiobook here, and that is A Dog Called Hope. Daughter of Smoke and Bone. I am a bit nervous to pick that one up because audiobook, fantasy. But at the same time, I've heard such amazing things about this book. I think I do own them all on Kindle as well, so I could read along with it, or I could read one or the other first sort of thing just to get an idea and a feel for it. But yeah, that one's not too bad a length, so maybe I'll get brave and give this one a go sometime. Then we have Great Expectations, which is one of, if not the favourite book of mine by Charles Dickens, so I want to give this one a go via audio sometime and just, see how it compares. And we have another Brandon Sanderson book, Elantris. Then we have Little Women, Uprooted by Naomi Novik. I have been desperate to read this book for so long, but I am terrified because, again, fantasy, so I've been putting it off. Then we have The Museum of You. If You Dare, that is the third book, I think. I hope I've got these the right way around. The third book in the Girl in 60 series. Above there, we have The Chemist by Stephanie Meyer. I obviously bought this one pretty much as it came out, actually, because, as I said earlier, my audiobook queue is a lot shorter than the queue for my Kindle and everything else. So if I want to get to a book quickly, this is usually how I do it. And that was my logic with this when I picked it up in November. Yeah, I should probably try and get to this one then. Then we have The Ask and the Answer by Patrick Ness. Because I enjoyed the first book in the series so much, I just thought, you know what? I don't even need to worry about reading these in physical form. I've got on with the first book. I can just continue on with the series all on audiobook. Then we have Dracula, Armada, which I bought originally because I'd heard bad things about it. I really enjoy picking books up if I know that a lot of people have hated it, because I want to see what I think and see how my mind sort of takes things in comparison to other people. So I got this one deliberately knowing I might not get on with it. Then we have Apple Tree Yard. I can't remember much about why I got this one. It was probably on some sort of like 3 for 2 kind of thing or something like that. Malice, I've heard great things about that one, but guess what? 24 hours almost, and fantasy, not in any rush, thank you very much. Then we have The Jungle Book, Agnes Grey. The Night Circus, which I've heard fantastic things about that book, but not much about the actual audiobook, so I will be interested to see what the audiobook is like for this. Then we have a beast of a book that really makes your one audiobook token a month suddenly seem like a real bargain, because for the $7.99 subscription cost that I have got for this per month, I've got Sherlock Holmes, the definitive collection by Arthur Conan Doyle, Stephen Fry introduction, blah, 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 at 71 hours and 58 minutes, and that was $7.99. And normally if you're trying to pay cash for it, which you just wouldn't, but they try and charge you about £60-ish for it, I think, so yeah, feels like a bargain. Then we have The 39 Steps, A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. I thought this would make me cry listening to it on audiobook. It didn't. I've never read the book in any other format, so I don't know whether I would cry in a different sort of situation, but yeah, I didn't cry. 4 stars. Then we have The Watchmaker of Filgree Street, The Cleaner, North and South, Into the Water by Paula Hawkins. I'm really excited to get to this sometime as a psychological thriller. Can't wait. Station 11. Lady Midnight. This was free a few months ago, just before Lord of Shadows was due to come out. And my original plan was to listen to this so that then I could read Lord of Shadows with Lady Midnight fresh in my head. Sadly, that didn't happen. I've obviously read Lady Midnight in the past, so it was no big deal. But now I'm hoping to listen to this one at some point in the future, just so I can sort of find out what the audiobook is like. A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, The Power by Naomi Alderman, Emma by Jane Austen, Gil Online on Tour, again by Zoe Sugg. I don't know why this one hasn't got the ratings either. Why did I not rate this? But this one was 5 stars all the way through. This audiobook made me cry. I was listening to it in bed at stupid o'clock in the morning trying to finish the audiobook, and I was just crying my eyes out. It was such a weird experience to just be lay there listening to this voice and blubbing so much. I was a mess. And then up here we have The Butterfly Effect, which is currently free. Not sure whether that'll be a permanently free thing, but it's definitely free for now. So if you're watching this recently, oh yeah, they're free for a limited time. So yeah, if you're watching this not long after this video has gone up, go and quickly get that if you're an Audible member and you haven't yet, because it won't be like this forever. And then the other books that you can see on the screen right now are just Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets, and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, because I'm currently using 1 token each month to collect the Harry Potter series on audiobook, because I'd really quite like to just listen to them all in a row sometime. I think that'd be quite a cute little idea for a few months worth of audiobook listening. So yeah, that is my current plan. Once I've got them all, I can do that. But yeah, that is my complete audiobook collection. If you would like to see more about audiobooks, then let me know in the comments down below, and yeah, just let me know what it is you'd like to see more specifically than anything. I've stopped doing audiobook reviews specifically, so if you missed those, maybe let me know. But I mean, I do still review them in my reading wrap-ups. They just don't get their own individual video, so it's not like there's no review at all. But yeah, just keep me posted. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe by clicking the image of me just over here somewhere. And I will see you hopefully tomorrow with a book review. Bye bye!